The Reapers are no longer the stuff of myth or legend.
After 2 epic games, the 3rd installment of the Mass Effect series is finally here.
The war for Earth has begun. We're going to meet the creators, the actors, and go behind the scenes of one of this year's most anticipated games.
This is the PWNED Mass Effect 3 Special. Coming up on this very special edition of PWNED,
we meet the founders of BioWare, Dr. Ray Musica and Dr. Greg Zeshuk, to talk to them about the ethos behind BioWare's games.
we take a look behind the scenes of a voice recording session for the game and pop over to Hollywood to talk to Fem-Shep actress Jennifer Hale and the voice of Liara, Hillis.
We discuss Commander Shepard's story so far, leading into this latest instalment in the Mass Effect franchise, and find out what new stuff we can expect to see with producer Mike Gamble.
And we take a look at the creation of the Mass Effect 3 commercial and have a sneaky peek at the finished product.
When the debut trailer for Mass Effect 3 was released, it showed a battered London being laid waste to by the Reapers, as told by a survivor inside the Big Ben clock tower.
So we thought it would be a fitting location to get the BioWare founders to tell us about making video games, and in particular Mass Effect 3, the BioWare way.
Well, BioWare began back, I guess, in the early 90s. You know, Greg and I and a third doctor, actually, we all went to medical school together, and we were making video games, and we had a passion for playing them. We said, you know, let's make some video games together too.
It started in the basement of my house, which was of course too short for Ray, so he hit his head on the ceiling, so we moved out of there eventually. You know, we've always had a huge passion for role-playing games, so that was actually when we were growing up our favorite type of game, and we just saw an opportunity to make games there. We thought we had a pretty good idea what we could build, and you know, the rest is history.
And if anything, we're broadening the kind of role-playing games we build now to really extend, you know, the elements we love from RPGs, like exploration and progression, customization, and combat and conflict and story and character. We love the idea of taking on a heroic role or a villainous role in this really, you know, cool universe, the universe of Mass Effect, science fiction, or fantasy, Dragon Age, or all the other great universes we're privileged to work on.
We try and make them very deep and engaging. You know, we try to create emotional engagement, but also give players choices, challenge them. And also, we want the experience where they're actually, after the game is done, they're thinking of what they've done and really looking forward to playing again in the future.
So there's lots of different ways you can categorize what makes a great game or not. I think one way would be, is it fun? You know, do you tell your friends about it? Is it viral? Is it the kind of thing you get excited about enough to put your reputation on the line and say, yeah, this is a game you should check out? Is it accessible? Is it the kind of game you can pick up and play and have fun even for a few minutes or a few hours? You know, and is it deep and rich? Does it provide the reason to believe for a long time and provide great value for money? Does it give you choice and consequence? Does it have characters and story that you want to believe in? Does it have exploration of vibrant worlds? Does it have progression, customization, and epic combat that makes you feel like you're actually making a difference? These are all factors that we consider in BioWare games as we build them.
The current games that we build, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age and Star Wars, The Old Republic, they have a really direct and obvious lineage to the games we've made before. Every time we make a game, we improve it slightly. Early on, we did voice, then we did facial acting, then we did full acting. These are things that, you know, whenever we make a game, we try and take stuff we've learned and apply it going forward. I think with all our games, like Mass Effect just being one of them, there's lots of places where we're trying to take them. You've seen, like, for example, in Dragon Age, we had a social game. You know, we got lots of books, there's figures. I mean, there's Mass Effect, for example, there's a movie that's been announced and being worked on. So every game we do actually has a life. Like, it just starts sometimes maybe as a console game, but then goes lots of places.
It's really a combination of factors that have led us to evolve the Mass Effect universe from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2 to Mass Effect 3. And simultaneously, we're increasing the action intensity in Mass Effect 3. There's more tactical options, run and gun and melee combat. And there's also a lot of RPG richness and depth, more weapon customization and deeper story options, and a lot of other elements that players have been asking for in both those axes. So I think it comes from player feedback and the team realizing we can always improve and innovate.
Whenever we make a sequel at BioWare, we tend not to stand still. We like to evolve the game and add new elements. And we really try and reflect what the fans want, but also what the team is passionate about.
So our specific input into all of our games, you know, Mass Effect 3 is an example, or Star Wars The Old Republic, or Wrath of Heroes, or Dragon Age franchise. We play our games. We enter feedback, we provide bugs to the teams, we sit in design meetings early in the IP vision ideation stage of the projects, and then also at the end as we final the games, we give feedback to the teams. But we have great teams.
Yeah, I think maybe the other area where we work is we create the environment that they can do their jobs. And so we create that environment, coach them, help them, We try and get things started on occasion, but once they're up and running, they're amazing.
Well, for BioWare, our future, it's always about striving to innovate and improve and deliver quality for our fans, to create a sustainable environment for our employees, and delivering on our vision of creating, delivering, and evolving the most emotionally engaging games in the world. And we're always striving to do that. So hopefully the fans will agree that our next games are even better than the great ones we have in development now. And we're excited about that.
Something the doctors touched on there is the storytelling approach that BioWare are well known for in their games.
And it's the voice talent of actors that help tell those stories. Two of those actors are the fantastic Jennifer Hale and Ali Hillis, who play Fem-Shep and Liara in Mass Effect 3.
So we sent Matt off to LA to talk to the girls about their roles.
Each of us has to be willing to die to save humanity. Anything less, and they've already won.
Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, happy to be here.
Now, I guess most people would have heard your voice, most gamers, is that right to say?
There's a good chance I've heard my voice.
You've been Naomi in Metal Gear Solid, you've played Samus Aran in Metroid Prime,
Yep.
and of course, Fem-Shep
In Mass Effect.
in Mass Effect. How did you get involved in the role?
Auditioned, and I've really fortunately got the chance to do it.
I'm a soldier. I should be back on Earth fighting, not wasting my time with this. If it's going to work, we need you.
Ali, what's it like playing a blue lady from outer space with biotic powers?
It feels perfectly normal. Yeah.
Where did you get your
in my real,
inspiration?
I have biotic powers in my real life, so.
It's different to a movie because it's not a linear plot as such.
No.
How do you go about not losing yourself in the story?
You just never try to find yourself. You just go, okay, what's this right? What are we doing right this second? Okay, that's what I'll do. I rely on the director to tell me what just happened and where are we and are there explosions or is it quiet? Are we hiding or are we attacking? You know, because context is everything.
And I need them to work together, so let's not complicate things.
Yeah, so now imagine you're running along, Jen, so just a little more action on it and a little more speed.
Right now we're working with Caroline Livingston, who's directing from Edmonton, and we're in the booth in Los Angeles, and we just open up and she just starts directing. We have a screen. We're working with a new system with Mass Effect, which I like. It just comes up line by line, and at this point, I know the character so well that we don't really have to do a lot of backstory, but she will in between direct me, let me know what the motion capture was like, and sort of remind me what world we're in, because sometimes I get a little, confused because we jump around a lot.
In this one, the director had me open up a little bit more and be a bit more emotional and go ahead and feel stuff a bit more and express that a little bit, which was kind of new, and I relied on Caroline for that very heavily.
I've played through the previous Mass Effect games. They're very big. How many days, hours, weeks of voiceover sessions did you do for it?
I couldn't even count how many hours I was in the studio for Mass Effect. It's, I heard 7,000 lines for Shepard, but I'm not sure. But I can't think about that or I'd just be crushed under the weight of it. I don't know how the producers do it.
Is it different voicing a game as opposed to an animated TV show or something like that?
Very much so. When you're recording an animated TV show, everyone's there in the room with you, most of the time, reacting off of each other, whereas in the games, like we've talked about, we're all by ourselves in there.
Oh,
but
you're on your own.
I know. I'd love to have Jen in there with me.
BioWare came up with this amazing system called Beta, where if someone else who you're in the scene with has been in the booth before you, then they've already recorded those lines, and if you're lucky, they can play them for you right before you say your line.
You'd think the Turians could use the Krogan military's help.
The Alliance is fresh. Let's not mess with it.
It's fantastic to be able to hear Jennifer Hale and respond to her because I know you probably know this, but there are some pretty intimate scenes between Ms. Hale and I.
It's fantastic. I mean, how often do you get to have a same-sex option in a game? And everybody needs to find a home. Everybody needs a place to play, someone they can identify with. And I think that's one of the awesome things and forward-thinking things about this game. One of the best things about Mass Effect 3 is that if you've never played Mass Effect 1 and 2, you can jump right in and you will be up to speed immediately. The game rewrites itself for you. It knows that you haven't played 1 and 2, and it will change the dialogue to fill you in on the backstory, to bring you right up to speed, so you're right there with people who've played the first two and you don't miss anything.
Do you like the fact that Liara's more hands-on with the combat this time?
I do. It's just more action. There's a tougher side to her now. She's more independent. Yeah, there's a lot more emotion involved this time, and she gets to be a little bit more invested, I guess, than before, where she sort of, sat back and watched. But now things are affecting her personally, which I think we'll just leave it at that.
If the next game comes up and you get the opportunity to play Fem-Shep again, will you be there?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah?
Yeah, with bells on. Or, Omni tools, whatever it takes.
I look forward to seeing Liara, hopefully, in a future Mass Effect game in the future.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice? I know I'd like to see that. Maybe a little Liara and the Asari spin-off game. I think that'd be a really good idea.
Liara and the Smurfs.
Liara and the Smurfs. Come on, man.
Now, some of our viewers will have already played through Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2.
And some of you joining the series with Mass Effect 3 will be jumping in at the beginning of the war with the Reapers.
Let's take a quick look back at what's happened in the story so far, leading up to the invasion of Earth, and find out what's new in Mass Effect 3 with producer Mike Gamble.
So Matt, what did you want to talk to me about?
So what new features are there in Mass Effect 3?
So there's a number of new features in Mass Effect 3 that we've been able to add. A lot of it is relying on deep RPG systems, more fluid combat. We've also added, you might have heard, multiplayer play in Mass Effect 3. It's not required to play multiplayer to get, the full story experience, but at the same time, it allows you to join in with your friends, play a little bit of Mass Effect, and experience the war against the Reapers from the ground level, from the Alliance soldier who would be battling for individual systems or planets.
What's changed since the last game?
In Mass Effect 3, we brought back a really deep and rich RPG customization. We wanted the players who wanted to create their own custom Shepard experience to be able to do that. So a lot of cool things like armor tinting, weapon modding, things just to customize the experience a lot more. Galactic exploration has also changed in many ways, and I don't want to get too much into detail on that, but definitely it is still very, very engrossing and encourage you to explore the galaxy. So yeah, a lot of things that we've learned from previous games we've brought back in.
Will players that didn't play Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2 know what's going on?
Well, we've implemented a number of systems that support new players in Mass Effect 3. So for example, if you start a new game, or depending on the experience that you want to have, the dialogue that's presented to Commander Shepard, especially in the beginning of the game, is altered and doesn't get into specifics, doesn't get into as many details as someone who had played the previous games and imported a save and wants that rich, detailed experience.
So it's fair to say anybody playing Mass Effect 3 is jumping in right at the exciting point in this canon?
We've been building up to this war for 2 games now, and the Reapers have finally come. So it is up to Commander Shepard to stop them, to rally the galactic forces against them. So Mass Effect 3 is really that perfect point to jump in. You start the game off with the Reapers attacking, and then you know what you have to do. You know the mission that you have to accomplish. It's very self-contained in that perspective, and we feel it's a really, really good place to start looking at the series.
What's your favorite character in the game?
My favorite character, I think, would have to be Aria. She has a lot of attitude. She's not a pushover, and I think in a lot of ways she's almost a match for Commander Shepard, at least on an attitude level. So I definitely like Aria. Who knows where she is in Mass Effect 3, but she's definitely back.
Is this the final battle, or will there be more Mass Effect games?
You never know in terms of Mass Effect. We've developed this rich and amazing galaxy, this rich and amazing IP, and we think that there's a lot of stories that we could possibly tell within the universe, but we'll just have to wait and see.
So will the next game be in the same universe but with different characters?
Who knows? Anything's possible at this point.
Can you guys hurry up and make the next one so it's ready by the time I finish Mass Effect 3?
You're just like everyone else, We can't make these games overnight. It takes time. You have to wait.
Sorry to annoy you, I'm just a huge Mass Effect fan.
That's okay. Anyway, I've got some things to do, Cuddle, so I should go.
The launch of a highly anticipated game such as Mass Effect 3 is a fairly big deal, and it will come as no surprise to anybody that a commercial will be hitting small and big screens with the release of the game.
In fact, the ad for Mass Effect 3 was being made right here in the UK by The Mill, a special effects house who also do effects for the BBC's Doctor Who series.
Sean headed over to The Mill to investigate.
So, JC, it's fair to say this advert is pretty epic. Where did you start?
Some of us already knew a lot about Mass Effect and the type of creatures and stuff, so we gathered up a load of resources and worked out how we were going to achieve this big, massive fight finale.
And this, of course, is a 2-minute advert, but how long did that take you guys?
So since we shot this, we've had 2 months to work this up for completion, which might not sound like a lot, but we've had 50 people working on it.
Talk us through some of the processes behind the commercial.
The first process we'd do, someone would finesse the model, they'd apply the textures. While someone's building the models and texturing it, someone would then be putting a skeleton into it. We call it a rig, and that allows animators to get hold of it and move it around so that they can roughly time out the movements of how someone would walk, basically. Walk, run, you know, any action getting shot. While that animation process is going on, we're working on matte painting. For instance, the stuff that we shot in Prague, it was good for what we needed the foreground objects for, but anything past a certain height and distance was no good because we had to recreate San Francisco into these shots. And we had to put the Golden Gate Bridge into it, and it had to be completely destroyed.
With all of these components, some of this must be painstaking to get right.
When we went out to Prague, we had big green screen set up, and then when the guys started shooting it, they were using a lot of like explosions and stuff that ended up really fogging out the air. So we have to do the harder process of grabbing frame by frame, and you draw around. In this case, it was Shepard. He'd be in a corner of the screen. So every frame you'd have to draw around him.
One of the things you've had to balance is, of course, the realism and staying true to the game. So how did you achieve that?
One of the things we have to be really truthful to is to EA's product that they've got. There's things in this game that haven't been in the other 2 games. The fans will know straight away if you're not doing something right. So for us, it was straight away, you know, let's get as much research into it. The new thing in this game is the Omniblade. We had to make sure that we got that exactly right as EA are working the game up as we were working with it. So they would send us reference. We'd get the odd pics here and there that we would match.
How do you balance the excitement and the emotion? Because obviously if you've got an emotional scene and then there's an explosion in the background, it could ruin the moment.
There'll be a moment where there's this nice emotional bit, and then if you've got a shot afterwards, we're going to just blow people up and shoot people and do the stuff that's the fun bit, and then give it back to the agency, and then they can turn around and say that emotional beat doesn't work. Can we dial that back? Can we do whatever we need to do? But, you know, that's not our problem really.
It's like blowing stuff up.
We love it.
And here's a sneaky preview of how the finished product turned out.
Some will fight.
Well, that's it for the PWNED Mass Effect 3 special, and I think it's safe to say we're all ridiculous fanboys of the game on this show. And if you are too and want to help Commander Shepard save the world, and indeed the galaxy, then you can on March the 9th when it's out in the UK.
You can subscribe to us using the button above, and don't forget to leave your comments or questions for developers in our YouTube comments section.
Well, PWNED is back in a couple of weeks with a regular show, but for now we'll leave you with more footage from Mass Effect 3.
Can't penetrate shield! Getting killed here! Gotcha! Shield's offline!